Hi, this is Aaron Wilson. Texans corner Derek Stingley Jr. broke the bank Monday morning. The $90 million man, now the NFL's highest paid cornerback in league history, and well-deserved payday. It was negotiated by Austin-based agent David Mulligeta of Athletes First, and he has now done the highest paid corner deal 3 times. He did this with Jalen Ramsey, and he's also done this with J.C. Horn. So J.C. Horn wasn't the highest paid corner for long at a $25 million average. Now it's Derek Stingley Jr. with a $30 million average in new money. That's the new league's highest paid corner. And I expect Sauce Gardner to try to pass that mark this offseason from the New York Jets. And down the road, there'll be other higher paid corners. But for now, Derek Stingley Jr., he really reset the marketplace. This is a strong contract. And he is now under contract through the 2029 season, adding years to his original rookie deal. And I think it's a well-deserved payday. You think about the cover skills. You think about his commitment to football. Derek Stingley Jr. was at the Texans training facility this morning, working out with teammates when the deal was announced. It was actually completed on Friday. I'm told that Texans general manager Nick Caserio, he initiated the talks with Mulligeta, and the talks accelerated quickly, and they very quickly found the structure of a deal, and there was a lot to work off of. At one point, they were looking for $31 million a year. They met in the middle at the $30 million mark. The Texans were at one point at $28 million, and there was no chance that he wasn't going to beat the mark set by J.C. Horn of $25 million by a lot. And he now has, and Sauce Gardner from the New York Jets likely be a beneficiary of this new negotiating milestone for Derek Stingley Jr. and his agent, David Mulligeta. And David Mulligeta is going to be doing a lot of business with the Texans. Next year, C.J. Stroud, the quarterback, will be eligible for a contract extension. And that figures to be a big deal. I could see it being $55 to $60 million annually. Also on the Texans' negotiating agenda, Pro Bowl defensive end Will Anderson Jr. That's with Clutch Sports. I think that deal will also happen next year. And we'll see. Does he get to $40 million, or is he more like $30 to $35 million? It'll be very interesting to see where the valuation comes in for Will Anderson. Meanwhile, Jalen Petrie, no talks as of yet, just very preliminary conversations, so no deal. I think it'll be tough to figure out his value. Is he going to be a 3-year, $45 million a year guy, or are the Texans going to envision him a little bit less? We'll see where that winds up, or does he head to free agency? But I think at some point, they do some business with Jalen Petrie. Call me an optimist, but I think both sides motivated. He wants to keep playing for his hometown team, and the Texans love what Petrie does. And going back to Stingley and how this happened, the deal culminated because the Texans had the salary cap room to do this. They'd always budgeted for him, but they had to move a few things around. They traded Laremy Tunsil, getting his $28.3 million salary cap figure off their books and to the Washington Commanders. So they do that trade, and that set the stage for this deal for Derek Stingley Jr. And it was always about financial ramifications of having a Pro Bowl left tackle. And for the Texans, they made that decision to go with their younger core of players, and that was a major impetus behind the deal, more so than any of the things you've heard or read about the Laremy Tunsil relationship with the organization, which was a strong one and remains a strong relationship even after the trade. And we'll touch more on Tunsil, but I want to get into a little bit about the football aspect of Derek Stingley Jr. Rare cover skills, outstanding athleticism, a willing tackler, and a strong work ethic and the ability to high point the football, just as Tyreek Hill and several others. He had 7 interceptions last season, and he had a couple of those in the playoffs on Justin Herbert, who's one of the best quarterbacks. So you look at Derek Stingley Jr. and what he can do, the way he picked off Tua Tagovailoa several times in that game against Tyreek Hill. I just think that he's on top of his game. Any of the past hamstring issues, durability issues, well behind him, foot issue from LSU. And now you see all of the talent. You see why, as Nick Caserio said when they drafted him, he told Cal McNair, guys like this don't grow on trees. They're rare. And Derek Stingley Jr., just someone that is so committed to football, comes from a football family. His dad, Derek Stingley Sr., and his grandfather, Daryl Stingley, the late Daryl Stingley, played this game for the New England Patriots. And you look at the, commitment, the film study. These are why it's a good investment, because he cuts off half of the field, a true shutdown corner, and that word is probably tossed around too lightly with some other players, but Derek Stingley Jr. truly embodies what that means. A rare talent and one of the best defensive players I've covered, and I've covered Ray Lewis, I've covered J.J. Watt, I've covered Ed Reed, and Derek Stingley Jr. We might be looking at a potential Hall of Fame career if he can sustain the high standard, the gold standard of play that he showed last season. So I'm excited for him, and congratulations to Derek Stingley Jr. and to his family and to the Texans, because it's a accomplishment when you draft well, third overall picking him, and when you develop him. There's coaching involved in this too. So you have a good scheme, you have a plan, you have a vision for the player, and you get it going. And so, credit to everybody all around to get this contract done. And this was, I would say, one of the big victories of their offseason to have this happen. And I know that some people have been down on the offensive line, and rightfully so. That it's in flux, obviously. I wrote a lot about this at KPRC2, www.click2houston.com, and we discussed a lot of the particulars about the offensive line. But speaking of the offensive line, I want to turn the page a little bit, and I want to talk about Laremy Tunsil. And this kind of a really important conversation that he had today with the Washington media, and it reinforced a lot of things that I've been told about the Tunsil trade and how this came down. And ultimately, they trade him along with the fourth-round pick. They get a 2025 third-round pick, a seventh-round pick, a second-round pick, and a fourth-round selection. And multiple sources of direct knowledge of what happened here. They emphasized it's primarily a financially motivated decision, and they wanted to acquire this valuable draft capital. They wanted to free up their books, and really didn't have a lot to do with necessarily the penalty issue or anything regarding culture. I think that's been overstated, and some of this stuff is just flat out wrong. Very well liked inside the locker room, very respected. You don't get to be a team captain if you don't have the respect of the coaching staff and your teammates. So, that happened. And, some comments from Laremy, and I'll paraphrase a few of these. He talked about how they paid Stingley, gave that boy the bag. He said he understands it. He said it's just a business. He doesn't take it personal. No hard feelings against the Houston Texans. He said he thanks them for everything, and to his family for changing his life. Twice they made him the highest paid offensive tackle in NFL history. And he's confident that he's going to make a big impact with the Commanders. He can't wait to block for star quarterback Jaden Daniels. And, you look at kind of what happened with him, and, he acknowledged some of the failings of the offensive line. And this is similar sentiment that was expressed by Titus Howard and some of the other linemen. But they could have done a lot of things better. They could have protected CJ better. And he said a lot of things played a part of what happened last year, but he can't take it personally. He said just a business move. And for their efforts to try to pay the young guys, he said both D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caserio had that conversation with him and emphasized that. I believe it. I think that is the actual truth. I don't think it's that much more complicated. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. I think the easy answer usually is the correct answer. And that's my opinion and my belief, and what I trust is the truth surrounding this Laremy Tunsil trade to the Washington Commanders. So bye to Laremy, and he'll sure still be around in the Houston area sometimes and has a home here. And now he's on to my hometown, Washington, D.C. My family grew up with the season tickets. It's been in the family for over 4 decades. So as a kid, I grew up going to RFK Stadium, and I watched, the Joe Theismanns and the Doug Williams and the Hogs and John Riggins. So it's a real tradition he's going to. Now they've got the city going, and he's come to the Commanders at a great time in ownership after the regrettable Daniel Snyder tenure. And Yeah, I think for Laremy, he's fortunate because they didn't trade him to Siberia. They traded him to a playoff squad that was in the NFC Championship game, that has a good quarterback, that has a good organization, and some business done between Adam Peters and Nick Caserio, two old friends, former roommates when they were young scouts with the Patriots. So they do some business, and now Tunsil's broke his silence, and this is the time, and they know what's happened, and I think Tunsil will get a new deal. He wouldn't say that, but he said that front office of the Commanders know where he stands. So I expect a payday for Laremy Tunsil within the next year, and who knows, maybe even before the season, maybe they'll want to extend him and lower his salary cap figure. So we'll see what happens in the next chapter with Laremy Tunsil. Free agency, not over for the Texans, and they were pretty active today. They did a couple of deals, so I want to talk about a couple of the players that they added. They get Ronald Darby, at one time one of the better corners in the NFL, 1 year, $2.5 million deal. He effectively replaces Jeff Okudah as the third corner. They got him at a good price. And yes, Darby is very experienced, and he's more durable than Okudah. The bad news is he got picked on a lot last year with the Jaguars, gave up a lot of yards, and he's played some good football. How much football does he have left? So you look at last season, allowed 42 catches on 61 targets, career high, 68.9 completion percentage against him for 567 yards, 4 touchdowns, career high 120.0 passer rating against him. Not good. He's still capable of making some plays on football. I think he's a solid third corner. And the idea with the third corner is you don't play them much. And you've got Derek Stingley Jr. and Kamari Lassiter out there for 100% of the defensive snaps. But he's an insurance policy because he can line up and start for you in a pinch. And that's what you want. You want to have an experienced hand back there in the secondary, and just in case anything happens. So they got that done, and that's a nice piece for the defense to get that done. And you look at, one other thing they did today, 1-year deal for Jakob Johnson. And Jakob Johnson is a big fullback with some tight end ability too, 6'3", 255. He's a blocking back. He played for the New England Patriots for Nick Caley when he was the tight ends and fullbacks coach, and he is a big physical player. They called him the German tank because of his stiff arm, and also because he's from Germany, Stuttgart, Germany. He was over there, and then he came over to Jacksonville, Florida, and then he earned a scholarship at the University of Tennessee, and then he went undrafted, and he played for the Patriots. He's played for the Raiders. He's played for the New York Giants. With the Raiders, he played for Texans senior offensive assistant Jerry Soplinski, and Jerry was also with the Patriots, so there's a lot of overlap. So they have a comfort level with him. We thought they would use a fullback, and they will. And so they're going to have him and British Brooks, who's making a sound recovery from his knee injury that required surgery last season. So we'll see. They'll be in the mix at training camp, and it'll be fascinating to see how they use the fullback in this Nick Caley offense. So I'm interested in that. I think that's going to be good. And he can catch a little bit out of the backfield, 19 career receptions, got 1 touchdown. He also plays special teams. He has 11 career tackles. So someone that can work in with Frank Ross as well. So yeah, doing a few things, and we'll see what's next for the Texans. They're not completely out of money just because they did the Derek Stingley Jr. deal. Everything is prorated, and ask me soon what the cap space is. They did finish the Denico Autry deal. It did lower his cap figure. Details are not in, but multiple sources told me that deal is done. So that's part of the accounting that they've already done. Also on Saturday, $5 million of the signing bonus for Danielle Hunter was paid. And so that was coming from last year's deal. And they have not open talks yet. I think that's still something that they're looking at. Are they going to do a Danielle Hunter deal or not? And it'll be interesting to see how they go forward in the Danielle Hunter negotiation. The Bengals have reinitiated talks with Trey Hendrickson. Will he get close to the Max Crosby type of money? I don't think anyone's going to get anywhere near the $40 million a year that Myles Garrett, truly has earned. And I think that these other guys, like Danielle Hunter, like Hendrickson, they'll be happy to be anywhere in the 30s. And for Hendrickson, that would be a big raise. Same thing for Danielle Hunter, who's at a $25 million average on a 2-year, $50 million contract. So some more negotiating stuff to talk about, something to keep an eye on with that situation with Danielle Hunter. And yeah, the Texans, I think, getting better, adding some pieces. And the major news, the headline, Derek Stingley Jr., 3 years, $90 million extension. Well played by Derek Stingley Jr., by his agent David Mulugeta, who became his agent last year. And within this calendar year, now, the negotiator for this gigantic blockbuster deal that makes Derek Stingley Jr. part of history as the highest paid corner in the history of the NFL. So we'll see what happens next, but I think these are, a lot of the offseason fireworks happen quickly, and we've been chronicling it all here on my YouTube channel and on my Twitter/X at @AaronWilson_NFL, and on Instagram, AaronWilson7128, and of course on the airwaves at KPRC2, on television with Randy McElvoy, the sports director, and Ari Alexander, my colleague in the sports department, and of course at www.click2houston.com. So please keep it locked on all of those channels. I try to give you the latest and most accurate information as it happens, and I look forward to our next conversation. Please like and subscribe. Appreciate you supporting this channel, and it is absolutely free, just like all of my other content. It is free, so it doesn't take anything to hit the button, subscribe, and support the channel. Appreciate you guys. Talk soon.